Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sleep Detective podcast, where good sleep, health, and longevity are inevitable. Today, I want to talk about why the little things are stressing you out. So, I wonder if this sounds like you. Does your partner tell you that you overreact, or you feel like you're overreacting? Are you irritable and short tempered? And maybe you know that something little like spilling milk shouldn't be a big deal, but you can't help but get upset every time the littlest things happen. I want you to know that you aren't crazy and that this isn't actually your fault. If this is happening to you, it means that your stress response is on high alert. You're in fight or flight. And your brain and body are so used to being stressed that you've developed what's called negative plasticity to stress. So this means that it takes less stress to cause the same stress response than it did before. So you're more sensitive to the little things that go wrong. Now, I remember this happening to me when my mom died almost 20 years ago. I remember that everything felt so stressful and I couldn't handle even the smallest things. And this is normal after a traumatic event like that, but it's not normal for this to be happening all the time and for this to continue for years. So, I want to give an example of my client, Rachel. So, when I first started working with her, she told me that her life shouldn't be stressful. She had a loving husband, a healthy baby, a worry free job that she really loves, but she felt stressed all the time. And when I saw her cortisol levels on the Dutch test, which is the hormone test that I run, it all made sense. Her cortisol was extremely depleted. So that meant that her body didn't have the resources it needed to make cortisol and therefore handle stress. Cortisol is one of our main stress hormones. So we actually need a healthy amount of that for stress when it comes up. So I thought this was interesting that one definition of stress is a condition in which we perceive that the demands in our life exceed our personal resources. So that makes sense, right? If we're feeling super overwhelmed, like we can't handle everything, that is what stress is. And this was true for Rachel, but also because her body literally didn't have the resources it needed to deal with stress because cortisol was so depleted. Now, what was interesting is that her other tests showed she had a few bacterial pathogens, lots of other bacterial overgrowth, even the good kind. Her minerals were out of balance. She had quite a few food sensitivities. And so we started working on some things. I because all of these things are causing stress in her body. So I recommended avoiding the foods she's sensitive to, which included gluten and dairy, which is really common. She actually chose to stop taking birth control because she saw how depleted her estrogen and progesterone were from taking it. So she was at like postmenopausal ranges for those sex hormones and she's in her 30s. So not good, right? I also recommended supplements to support her stress response, rebalance her minerals, and deal with pathogens. And we worked on her thoughts about sleep and her life in general. So, also helping deal with the mental stress. So, to sum it up, I looked at everything that was causing stress and helped her minimize it so that her body could get back in balance. And now she's been sleeping really great. This is what she wrote. After discovering Martha and enlisting her services, she did a full analysis of my body and helped me to understand the imbalance and why I wasn't able to fall asleep and stay asleep. She gave me natural solutions on how to get my body flow back in balance. And after a year of following her advice, I can fall asleep and stay asleep on my own. She wrote more as well, but I also want to point out she did the hard work. She eliminated the food, she took the supplements, she worked on things. And so that is why she got better. And she says, I rarely think about the upcoming sleep, which is the opposite of how it used to be. I used to dread going to sleep and would think about it all day long. Now I can appreciate it more. I'm finally getting the consistent enough results I've been looking for my whole life. So that is awesome. So let's talk about what some of these signs of an unhealthy stress response are. So it can mean that there's always something to do, right? You're always running around, super busy, never taking time for yourself, never sitting down and relaxing. maybe until it's bedtime or time to watch TV before bed, which is when it's a little too late. Not getting enough sleep or rest, of course, is a sign that you're having an unhealthy stress response. Not enough time or motivation for regular exercise, and just that kind of feeling like you're in survival mode, which means that you aren't also accomplishing your life's purpose, which is really important for happiness and good sleep. So, if you've gotten to this point, it means that you've been stressed for a long time. And this can be from emotional stress, from busyness, from trauma, but it can also be from physiological stress or stressors in your body that you don't even know are there. So, for example, like a pathogen in your gut, like a parasite, or eating a poor diet over time causes a lot of stress. Hormone imbalance, nutrient deficiencies, toxins from mold or heavy metals or chemicals, all of these things cause stress in our body. And we can't tell necessarily at first that it's causing the stress because our body's going to do everything it can to stay in balance. So for a while, and especially when we're younger, we don't have any symptoms even though we might be dealing with a lot of stress. We have the resources to deal with the stress at that point. Now, what happens though is when we're constantly stressed, it causes our body to constantly release cortisol to deal with stress. And over time, this cortisol gets dysregulated. So your sympathetic nervous system takes over, which is that stress response, that fight or flight response. And then when you're in fight or flight, it blocks your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of your nervous system that makes you feel calm and relaxed. So you can only be in stress or in calm. You can't have both of those nervous systems activated at the same time. Now, what's interesting too is that being in fight or flight all the time, it also causes a lot of inflammation throughout your body and your brain. And then you're more susceptible to pathogens in your gut, to hormone imbalances, to digestive issues. Now, constant high cortisol damages your brain, especially the hippocampus. And this is where learning and memory occur. It's also what regulates our circadian rhythm. So, this is how stress can directly lead to poor memory and sleep issues. The hippocampus is also the first part of your brain that gets affected by Alzheimer's. So, we really want to protect ourselves from the scary disease and sleep normally by figuring out what is causing stress in your body and in your mind. Now, then what happens? Let's say you're constantly under stress, your body's releasing a lot of cortisol. Over time, cortisol starts getting depleted because your body doesn't have the resources it needs to make cortisol anymore. And so we tend to think of high cortisol as causing insomnia, which it absolutely does, but low cortisol can also cause insomnia. So if you feel like the littlest things are stressing you out, your cortisol levels may be low all the time, day and night, just like Rachel's were. So, what could be making you wake up then? So, here are some possibilities. So, low blood sugar. Your body actually needs cortisol to release glycogen and raise blood sugar levels when they get too low. So, if cortisol is too low, then your body resorts to epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, and norepinephrine instead. These are our other stress hormones. Those fight or flight hormones are going to make you wake up with your heart beating fast and your mind racing, even more than cortisol would. So, when cortisol becomes depleted, your body resorts to adrenaline instead. Now, another thing that happens is serotonin is supposed to convert to melatonin, but low cortisol can actually stop that conversion. And then we know that melatonin is our sleepy hormone, so low melatonin can cause sleep difficulties. And if if you have low cortisol and you aren't sleeping, it could be from other imbalances in your body. It could be from heavy metal toxicity. It could be from mineral imbalances or really depleted minerals, which happens for people who have low cortisol and have been stressed for a long period of time. Um, Hormone imbalances like low progesterone, low estrogen, or even high estrogen can also make you wake up at night. So if it's not cortisol that's waking you up, it could be adrenaline or it could be these other imbalances in the body that are actually waking you up. So the key is to find where the stressors are in your body and address those things. Is it from your gut, your liver, your hormones, nutrient deficiencies, toxins? What is it? And of course, you want to work on lowering mental stress as well. And if you're constantly busy, then we need to work on slowing down, taking some time to yourself, time to relax. Then your body will start to get back in balance and it can make an appropriate amount of cortisol to deal with a normal amount of stress because we're all going to experience stress. It's just a part of life. But if it's not too much and our bodies can handle it, then it's totally fine. And stress can be good in that it helps us perform and concentrate and um, care about the things that we want to get done. And so then once your body's back in balance, then you'll be able to sleep normally and wake up feeling rested with energy for your day. And so this is exactly what I do to help our clients improve their health so that they can sleep normally. So the Complete Sleep Solution program uses functional lab testing to find out what's going on in your body that's out of whack and stressful. And we also use life coaching and cognitive behavioral therapy techniques to help with mental stress. Other sleep programs or doctors only look at the body or the mind. No one else looks at both. And this is why the Complete Sleep Solution program is different and so effective. So if you're struggling to sleep and you're stressed out by the smallest things, we are here for you. You can book a call with me to talk about what's going on with your sleep, what's going on with your health, and then I can explain how the program works and see if it's a good fit for you so that you can sleep well and stop sweating the small stuff and be able to handle and enjoy life. All right, everyone, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next week.